moving to government policy. And the first set of data we're presenting is Kenyans' awareness of price changes in certain commodities, or what commodities they've noticed this in, either increasing or decreasing since last year's election, Hadi Leo. So the first question is, and we have the questions at the bottom in English, even if most interviews were conducted in Swahili. Since the Ruto government was elected, can you think of any 2 commodities whose prices have increased? We didn't read these out. They were spontaneous mentions. And you can see unga mentioned by a majority, sugar just over half, petroleum products a third, and that's even before last weekend's increase. Remember, the data was collected, we stopped at the weekend. Only 2% said they couldn't mention any product that they thought the price had increased, and there was another 5% that didn't know or didn't answer the question. So only a total of 7% out of the whole sample couldn't give us an answer of anything that had increased. I don't know where those people are living, those 7%, but the point is 93% could give us an answer of at least one commodity they know that has increased in the last year. When we asked about, can you name any commodities that have decreased in price since the last election, we get a total of 78%, more than 3/4 who couldn't think of at least something that had decreased. 3/4, because most prices have not decreased. So that's not very surprising. It wouldn't have surprised me if there was 100% who said none. If you people know of any kind of commodity that the price has gone down since last year, tell me, I'll start eating it. Peanuts? I don't know. Jugu? Sijui, ndizi? Okay, ndizi are still, when I buy them at the kiosk, are still 10 shillings each. They haven't changed. A few people mentioned cooking oil. Maybe there was a subsidy at some point. I can't remember. 5% said unga. I don't know what kind of unga they were talking about. There was a subsidy for a while, then it was removed. But almost nothing there that people could mention in terms of, and I can guess, as I said already, when we do our next survey, hopefully in another month or 2, when the impact of the budget is starting to be felt, at least once we get past these court cases, which have several are blocking the implementation of certain budget provisions, at least on paper, we'll be able to compare these figures. And then we asked everybody in the sample, what do you consider to be the best provision of the new budget for people like you? And then the worst provision for people like you. Now, you can see at the bottom of both, quite a few people didn't know. DK means don't know. NR means no response. They didn't answer the question. And then some people who said specifically none. I guess when somebody says none, they have some information, but they're just saying there is nothing in this budget which is best, or there's nothing 10% that's worse. And you can see the difference there. 39% say there's nothing that's best. Only 10% say there's nothing that's worst. 4 times fewer. Because not everybody pays attention to the things that you people track because you're in the news business, or that we try to track because we're in the research business on what's going on with public policy. Best provision of the few things that were mentioned: educational support, the housing program, subsidized farm inputs, the reduction, elimination of tax on LPG that I already mentioned, a few others. Worse, 1/4 mentioned the petroleum levy increase, and I'm guessing, and this is just a guess, if we did this survey today, that would probably be up to 50% because people are beginning to see the impact already. Even if the government is undertaking plans to provide bora za stima, most people are going to be affected by transport costs for almost everything that we have access to, that we need. So again, it was very useful that we got all of these results just before the beginning of the financial year on July 1st, so that we can track this moving forward. And anyone else can too, and compare it with our data. We welcome them. We also wanted to find out whether people's political orientation is affecting the way they view an issue like the best and worst provisions. So elsewhere in the questionnaire, we asked people, which political party, if any, do you support or feel closest to? And we also asked everyone, which of the two coalitions, Kenya Kwanza or Azimio la Umoja, do you support or feel closest to? And then that allowed us to divide all of our respondents into those who are pro-government and pro-opposition. Or some didn't identify with any. There are not very many, but there are a few. One issue that caused us a little bit of a challenge, however, was Jubilee, because as I think you're all aware, there is a legal dispute as to which of the two factions, the one led by Kanini Kega, or the one led by Jeremiah Kioni, is the legal, legitimate Secretary General of the party. And even if not very many people identify with Jubilee as the main party they support, there are some, 4 or 5%, I can't remember from the data. So in order to take people who identify with Jubilee and put them into either the pro-government group of the sample or the pro-opposition, we asked them, who do you think is the correct or legal Secretary General of Jubilee? And if they said Kioni, we put them in the opposition group here, pro-opposition. If they said Kega, we put them in the pro-government group, so that we could take a question about provisions in the budget or anything else in the survey, and you'll see a few more, and really present the data in terms of political alignment. And probably the only thing worth noticing here is when we look at none, which is by far and away the majority response about best provisions across the political divide as well as total, we see that people who are pro-government only, and I put only in inverted commas, only 71% said there's nothing in the budget that they consider good. 71%. As opposed to pro-opposition, where 11% more said that. Now, you might be surprised that there are 18% who support the opposition who think there might be something good in the budget. But nevertheless, you can see that difference. That people in the government, or support the government, are less inclined to say that there's nothing in the budget that they think is good. Now, when we go on the other side, about worst, more or less the same thing. Only 34% of those who support the opposition couldn't name anything in the government or wouldn't name anything in the budget that they think is worst. Pro-government, about half, would not tell us or couldn't tell us what they think is bad about the budget. But among those provisions that are mentioned, you can see that the VAT increase for petroleum products is a clear plurality. These results came before the prices went up. Well, they went up on Saturday, and we finished our interviews early Sunday morning. So basically, 98% of the data came in before that price increase.